Welcome and welcome back to everyone joining us on the Rooted to Thrive conversations that elevate our humanity podcast. It's your friend, Rochelle Peterson-Ansari, aka Professor P. Well, listen, today we're talking about creating inclusive pathways in education and healthcare and how to move from intention to action. What it actually takes to operationalize equity through mentorship, partnership, and communication that affirms dignity and belonging. And joining me for this conversation is Dr. Christy Dinkins. Now, let me just give you a little of her receipts. Currently is the director of campus and community partnerships for the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine, Georgia campus. They have 3 campuses, and where she leads like initiatives that expand pathways into healthcare for K to 12 and undergraduate students. She also has developed leadership and professional development programming for educators and healthcare professionals, including a Lead the Change certificate program that focuses on inclusive leadership and emotional intelligence. Wait, I'm not finished. Dr. Dinkins is an award-winning educator and community leader. I like the sound of that, right? Educator and community leader whose work centers on what I just said, mentorship, community engagement, and creating access to opportunity for the next generation of leaders. I like to say she's in that lane where she can do this and that. Yes. But even more importantly, Dr. Christy and I first met. I actually call her Christy. I know I keep saying Dr. Christy. I don't know where that's coming from. But anyway, Dr. Christy and I first met through a video call, right? We were scheduled to prepare for a recent retreat that I facilitated for their campus and community partnership team for PCOM, right? The Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. Because of the authentic, warm, and grounded approach to her work, I said, oh, the Rooted to Thrive tribe has to meet Dr. Christy. So, Dr. Christy, thank you for agreeing to have this conversation with us today. How are you doing?
I just want to say thank you for inviting me into this conversation. I feel like, there are times where people feel like they have to leave one identity at the door to pick up the other. And thankfully, in the work that I do, I'm able to totter between the two all the time. How am I doing today? I'm doing well. I'm not going to lie. I have a sinus infection, but it was because I was doing community work. So
All
if
right.
this is like a battle scar, I will take that and keep it going. So I'm doing well. I'm doing exceptionally well. I keep getting reminders of why I do what I do. And as long as I keep those reminders coming and I keep having people tell me, oh, you're doing this and you're creating this moments of impact, you know what? That's what matters to me. I want to make sure I'm impacting the community in a way that's effective, that's going to push people forward, and it's going to give people access. So I'm doing exceptionally well today.
Oh, that is wonderful. And we hope that you are also taking care of you. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. So, why don't we get started with just a little bit about your background and then we'll take it from there.
Absolutely. So, I can't talk about being engaged in the community without talking about my parents. I can't do that. I had wonderful examples in my parents growing up, between like doing park cleanups, delivering boxes of food for people who didn't have access to food. Even when like we were dealing with food insecurities, we were doing that kind of stuff for people, right? My dad was the type of person, he loved doing yard work. So if there are people who couldn't get out in their yard, he was out there doing it for them. My mom would drive anybody anywhere. If you didn't have access to reliable transportation, she was doing that and is still doing that to this day. So a lot of the things that I saw growing up, I ended up modeling or mirroring what my parents modeled. And so it's kind of just something that's in me. I used to be that little girl. I remember at 6 years old, instead of praying for, I want to have this doll or I want to go to Disney World, I was just like, I just want peace on earth and I want people to be able to do the things that they need to do to survive. And so
Mhm.
people always thought I was just a different kind of child. And so that kind of just somebody I have always been at my core. My parents developed that and gave me opportunities to do that. So as I grew up, as I got older and went off to college, I kept that with me. And thankfully, I had great mentors who, poured into me. I went to an undergrad institution that was super progressive, that even though we're in the South, you met all kinds of people. And so I always had this idea of stretching my learning edge, learning from different perspectives, hearing from different lenses, and seeing how I can apply certain things to my life. So that's kind of just always been a part of my learning and growing process. And of course, anything that I learn, I want to make sure the next person knows. I'm not a gatekeeper. I was just doing a workshop with some students earlier today, and I'm not going to gatekeep anything. If I know that there's a resource that's going to help somebody, if I know that there's something I can do that'll provide access for somebody else, or if there's something that I'm just privileged to have, I'm going to make sure the next person has that as well. I don't believe in gatekeeping. So I believe, and we're talking about community, that is a big part of it. You kind of talked about this idea of being a mentor, right? And I feel like I'm in a very unique position, right? I'm always seeking mentorship, but I'm also being a mentor to those who are coming behind me. And so I always go by the I don't know if you call it a proverb, a principle, whatever, of lifting as I climb. And so that's something that, again, back to the community aspect, back to the things that I want to do, back to the things that are at my core values, who I am. It's all about lifting as I climb. So as I'm going up the corporate ladder or the higher ed ladder or whatever that looks like, I want to make sure I'm putting my ladder down for somebody else, just like
Yeah.
someone put their ladder down for me. So that's
Yeah.
kind of how, I kind of came to be and do all these different things. And I'll just say, as far as like the healthcare piece, a traumatic situation happened. My now ex-wife was diagnosed with breast cancer. And I said, you know what? We were going to doctor's appointments every day, going through chemo, going through radiation. And I said, you know what? I don't want to work in healthcare. Both of my parents worked in healthcare. So I was trying to go far away from it. Didn't
Mhm.
want anything to do with it. But I always found myself in situations where I'm either dating someone or around people who need additional support. And I always end up in a clinical setting, always end up in a hospital setting. So I said, these are some great people on this healthcare team. How do I find a way to contribute to this without going to medical school, without having to get another degree? How can I do that? And so I saw the opportunity at Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine to be able to help and develop those professionals, those healthcare professionals who are going and helping patients, interacting with them, and giving them these full experiences and helping them to really have a great quality of life. So that's how I see my way of contributing. I'm not a healthcare provider, but I am someone who trains healthcare providers. I'm not someone who can give you access to medication and all these different things, but I'm someone that can talk to the person who's doing that for you, who can tell them how to talk to you, can tell them how to interact with you, how to work with you through different challenges, and just how to be great human beings.
Mhm. Yes, it's human-centered work, right?
Right.
We think that, right? Like we assume that around healthcare, but we know that there are some practices in training
Hmm.
healthcare providers that actually what they suppress their empathy so that they can handle it.
Yes. Yeah.
However, it distances them from the
Mhm. Right. It desensitizes them. Like once you see so many traumatic things happening all the time, students tell me all the time, like all the things that they're like psychologically, they either weren't prepared for, or when
Mhm.
they went into it, they thought they were prepared. And it's just like, I'm like, okay, so did you breathe from that situation?
Right.
How did that impact you? A lot of people don't think about how people who are constantly in these situations where they have to make these decisions and have to critically think on the fly, how does that impact a person's psyche? What does that mean about their interactions with people? How is that impacting their lives? And so
Mhm.
I'm just grateful to have the opportunity to give some students and some employees some practical tools and some strategies to help them through that process.
And so I hear we have to pay attention to the wellness of the provider.
Yes.
Yes, first and foremost, right? Like that's a way of helping them fill their cups and find ways to keep their cups filled so they can give from their overflow.
Absolutely.
Yes, I love that. Thank you so much.
Thank
Well,
you.
we could have a whole conversation on that
We
alone.
sure can.
Yeah, but we are going to talk about moving from intention to action because we need some folks out there to know that they can create inclusive pathways through education and through healthcare, right?
Right.
So, my first question for you regarding that, many organizations say they value equity. They
Mm-hmm.
struggle to implement it.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see leaders getting stuck between intention and action?
Mm. Oh, that's a loaded but very it's a loaded question because there's so many layers to that. There are a lot of gaps.
Okay.
How people perceive themselves to be versus who they actually are and how people receive them, right? So there's this self-awareness piece, there's this social awareness piece that's all talking about emotional intelligence and all that, right? If we are not aware of how we are approaching situations or how we are perceived in front of groups, if we're not aware of our privileges. I just did a radio show the other day, and this guy had no idea that he carried privilege. He didn't know
Mm,
what that was. He didn't know, as a Black man, he didn't know what that was. And so I was explaining, well, what is privilege to you? What does that mean? So we kind of had to break that down. And so everyone carries some type of privilege, right? And we have to lay that privilege aside, use what we have, access that we have, people that we know, resources that we have access to, and to be able to help other people. So if you're a leader and you know there's a way to mentor or sponsor somebody else, there's a way for you to speak their names in rooms, right? There's a way for you to bring up that person instead of you going to the conference all the time, instead of you being the person who's leading an initiative. You can delegate that to somebody else who you're trying to get into that role, someone who's trying to progress in their career, right? So I think sometimes leaders miss the mark when we're talking about equitable practices and we're talking about access and we're talking about what that means in society today. We miss the mark when we forget that it's about we and not just me,
yeah.
right?
And in a North American and a European, Western European context, right? Many of us have learned about right? The
Mm-hmm.
individuality, and to protect your own family and look out for self,
Mm-hmm.
which is very different from what has been my understanding of a very African centered,
Yes.
right, ideology.
Mm-hmm.
That's where this comes from, right? Like in part, the Africans in the diaspora, which include your parents,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
are grounded in something that I'm so glad we didn't lose.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that is that there is no me without you, right? And
Right.
to, right? Which is another proverb, right? And
Mm-hmm.
and that was a proverb, lift as you climb, right? Like this sense of kinship that
Mm-hmm.
you look out for your brothers and sisters, you don't take from them. If anything, if you're eating, they should be able to eat as well.
Yeah.
And when the community thinks that way, everybody's taken care of. You,
Yes.
yes, right?
I feel like in the way that I don't know, I'm glad you talked about this idea of collectivism, right? Because there, in some ways, society has gone far from it with this individual kind of mentality. But a lot of groups, like I feel like this young generation is bringing back this collectivism idea, which we know that's how societies thrive off of collectivism. I've read this book. There's no self-made millionaire. Like there's
Mhm.
no person that's self-made. There's always somebody that can help you get to the next level. There's always someone who's helping you, mentoring you, sponsoring you. There's always somebody who's involved in the process. You're not living these siloed and isolated situations. There are other people involved. And so when I think about now healthcare, right? If we're talking about there have to be people who are professionals in healthcare who have to have this collectivistic idea perspective, right? Do no harm, right? Number one principle in any type of medical setting, do no harm, cause no harm, however you want to put it. If you're talking about individually, that means I don't care if I'm causing harm to somebody else. That literally goes against the first principle of being a healthcare professional. So if you even want to connect healthcare to that proverb, do no harm, be there for my brother, be there for my sister, be there for the people that I'm supposed to support. That's the best way to approach any type of work when you're talking about dealing with people. We have seen over and over and over again throughout this country how collectivism has worked. When we're talking about things
Mhm.
like protests, we're talking about things like, I think about the Black Lives Matter movement. When we
Mhm.
talk about, those who are Asian and from Asian and Pacific Islander, I think about their movement. When I think about the Me Too movement, any type of movement that has happened in this country, the women's suffrage movement, right? Voting rights, civil rights, anything that you think about, it's because the collective got together. We said, we're going to lay aside our differences. We have a common goal. And this common goal is to get this message across so that these people can be served. So if we keep that mindset, whether it's healthcare, whether it's community work, wherever it is, if you keep that mindset that we have a goal to achieve, we have some groups to work with, we have some things that we need to get over to a message that we need to get over to another group. If you keep that in mind, none of this other stuff really matters, right? You don't have to worry about what my background is and, am I qualified enough? No, my goal is to help you help them too, right?
Yes.
I think about one of my pathway programs we just wrapped up. We do research projects with high school kids. And the point of them doing these group research projects is to pick topics that are directly impacting the communities they are either a part of or communities they are passionate about. And so a big part of that is I'm putting the me in the we. I'm putting myself in the situation. Students were talking about sickle cell. People were talking about the ASL community. People were
Mhm.
talking about anxiety in kids and testing, sleep deprivation. We can all attest to sleep deprivation. So when you
Yes.
put yourself in those situations and you're thinking about the we, the collectivism, and all that stuff, you have no choice but to be passionate and impactful with the work that you're doing, with the contributions you're making in whatever industry you're in.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So I hear the first nugget. The required mindset is a collectivist one, right? Like a
Yes.
perspective that we're in all in this together.
Yeah.
Some of us can actually reach back to our spiritual traditions for that
Mhm.
kind of grounding. I don't really know of many that are individualistic, right? Like
Yeah.
we often, from those that I know of, we're all always commissioned or commanded or guided to take care of others,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
As family. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you think about familial, like that
Mhm.
foundation, or even a spiritual foundation, or whatever that belief is, that foundation, I was raised in the Baptist church. I'm a Southern girl raised in the Baptist church, and, love your neighbor as yourself, right? It's always this idea of, this altruistic, always looking for ways to support other people, treat others the way you want to be treated, those types of things. Even if your beliefs shift through life, there are just certain things that are just foundational to you. And again, goes back to your values. What do you value? If you don't know what your values are, figure those out, because that's going to be the cheat code through life of the things I should do, things I shouldn't do, things I should expect to happen to me, and things that I will allow to happen to me based on these values. And I feel like because people have lost ideas of those values, whatever those values are, because they've lost that, that's why we've been able to shift into this individual culture. That's why we've been able to say, well, it is just about me. I want to make this kind of money, and I want to do this, and I want to climb the ladder, and I want to do this. And that's okay that you want to do that. While you're doing that, put down your ladder for somebody else. But that's what got us away from that. Our values, whatever that value is, whatever that belief system is, whatever those familial foundational items are in your life, those are the
Mm,
things that really make you make the core of the person.
there you go. There you go. Well, let's shift a little bit to mentorship. right, as a pathway.
Okay.
Mentorship is central to your work. What makes mentorship transformational rather than transactional?
Oh, so, oh my goodness, I feel like you've been like sitting in my workshops and talking to my students and talking to the employees, because we talk about this all the time, transactional versus transformational. Transactional is you do something for me, I do something for you, we're good, right? It's I need you to get this done for me. It's tone, your tone in it, your expectations that you said are a little different, right? Um, the longevity of the interaction is different, right? This might be short-term mentoring. I just need a letter of recommendation. I just need you to serve as a reference. I have this, project. I just need you to be on board for this project, right? You get to transformational when you see the impact of what that does in somebody's life, right? When it's long term, when the tone is, okay, yeah, this is a reciprocal relationship and we're both going to get something out of it, right? Um, we're going to spend time monthly to talk about your goals. I'm going to share with you my experiences and how that has impacted me. And I want you to learn from those experiences. And I want you to think about how this kind of plays into what you're doing. I'm going to give you books. I'm going to have you reading books. I'm going to have you reading articles. I'm going to send you some TED Talks. I'm going to do all these. I am investing time in my mentee. My mentee is investing time in being not just present, because being present is being transactional, but being present and being invested and really engaging in what I'm giving them. Because as a mentor, if I'm giving you my time, I want you to take something and do something with that time,
Mhm.
giving it to somebody else, your mentee, putting it into the work that you're doing. Let me see the fruits of your labor. If we spend time, if I'm writing a letter of recommendation for somebody, I want to see where that work has been done. I also want to see who they impacted with the work that they are doing. I want to see the outcomes. It's not just, oh, this made me feel good to do this. What were your outcomes? Where's the data to back that up? I want to see all that as a mentor. And so for me, that's what makes up the transformational experience, because now you're showing them it's not just about feeling good. Feeling good is great. But when you're talking about outcomes and impact, and it's affecting, and impacting communities, how does that now make me feel better about my work? That I have the numbers to speak to it, that I can say that these groups now have access to this, that
Yeah.
these groups now know more about this particular topic, that they now can do the things they could not do before, that they are more successful. To me, that speaks more of the transformational piece and less of the transactional.
Yeah. So I hear an investment over time.
Yes.
There is a time investment,
Yes.
shared resources that require a reciprocity over time,
Yes.
and an investment in the impact and outcomes of the mentorship relationship, and an investment in the mentee's growth.
Yes.
And I would just like to add, I'm sure you're thinking this and have said this, but I would like to add that there's an investment, I think, in mentorship that the mentor gets as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, this is your legacy is the imprint you put on other people's lives.
Yes. I
Yeah.
think often about legacy. As someone who has not birthed any biological kids, I have
Same.
thousands of kids.
Mhm.
And to me, legacy says a lot. Like I think about even in my familial life, I remember one of my very early mentors was my aunt. Um, she was a businesswoman, right? She was a director of a funeral home. I mean, the way she ran, like she had all the respect from everybody in my hometown. You said one name, you knew exactly who she was. You knew her expectations. You knew you had to show up in excellence. You could not lack. You could not do these different things. You just showed up a certain way. So that was my mentor. That was the first time that I saw a woman, a black woman, come in. And this is a black woman who was very prominent in the civil rights movement, right? This is stuff I learned about her as I got older. But there's a reason why she's that way. And when I think about how she approached the way that she did things, I often think about the fact that she never had kids. Well, guess what? I'm her legacy, right? Legacy doesn't have to be, okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and have all these babies and make sure I can. Everybody wants to talk about generational wealth, and generational wealth goes beyond the tangible things. When
Mhm.
you talk about legacy, it's not about the tangible things. It is about the practical things. It's about the transformational things. It's about the changes you make in people's lives and how that impacts the next generation's life, right?
Mhm.
Finding those moments every day. I've been intentional. I challenged myself over the past year to find a moment to impact someone's life every single day. The more you do that, that becomes a practice that you just kind of have, a best practice, if you will. And the
Mhm.
more you practice that and do it, people expect that of you. They're like, oh, I already know she's going to create this moment of impact. It's going to be great. So then you create this reputation about yourself. And in that, now that I'm saying it out loud, in that, that was a way my aunt showed me how
Mhm.
to build my legacy, what my legacy should look like. Again, someone who has not birthed any biological children, yet I have thousands because
Yes.
they know that I'm going to create that impact. They know that if they sign on to be a mentee of mine or if I'm sponsoring them, that it's going to be great quality work, that it's going to be something that's going to benefit them and something that they're going to pass on to somebody else.
Yes, indeed. I love that. Yeah, and they tend to be people who then mentor, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Forward. There is nothing better than the feeling. Well, I love coaching. Maybe nothing better than that, right? Like, but just below coaching for me is seeing my former students. So I'm in the same boat, right? Like I mothered other people's children. I
Hmm.
am a GG of 8, but that's, through marriage.
Yeah.
So I didn't raise children of my own. But I was in higher ed. I guess as of now, it's 38 years, right?
Yeah.
It's a long time. And went to work on behalf of students who were historically marginalized in higher
Yeah.
ed. I purposely chose a predominantly white institution or
Hmm.
institutions to work in.
Hmm.
So, anyways, these folks are in their, well, I have some students that are in their 50s. So we have like principals, politicians, lawyers, etc. Well, there's a group of them now that are in their 30s.
Yeah.
Dr. So and so, who is working on getting people information about preventable, vaccines for
Yeah.
preventable diseases and getting the word out. So, like our children aren't dying. I have doctors who are working on dialogic, like dialogue, if you will,
Yeah.
for communication that's effective across organizations,
Mhm.
working on behalf of historically marginalized students in colleges and universities. My heart burst open to know that I played a part in that. Just
I mean, and that's so important to remember your why.
yes, that we're trying to create not only help this person navigate something or learn something or get access to something, but when they do,
Oof.
they are people who are helping to make this world a better place. It's nothing better besides coaching.
I can certainly relate to that. I feel like, when we work in places, so you and I can relate to working in
Mhm.
higher ed for sure. I don't have 38 years in the game. I'm coming up on 38 years of life. So I don't have 38 years in the game, but I do have close to 20, right?
Mhm.
I've been doing this since I was 18 years old. And so what I will say is, and I think about that time frame, I used to work in Trio. So I was working in educational talent search. And so I think about my middle school babies and my high school babies who are now business people. I
Mhm.
had one young lady hit me up on LinkedIn. She's a real estate agent. She was just like, Dr. Dinkins, if you ever, I'm sitting here like, wait a second. That was that girl that was in sixth grade that I was
Oh,
giving
wow.
financial literacy classes to.
Mhm.
She came from
Mhm.
Southwest DeKalb County in Georgia, had no idea about financial literacy. Like, no one in her household had ever talked to her about finances in the house. And now here she is, a successful real estate agent, asking me if I need help.
I know that's
Right.
right.
So I'm thinking about those moments like when you know like the work that you've done
Mhm.
and the love and the investment that you've poured into your students and people who look up to you, and how it's literally a full circle moment. I think about another student. I can have so many examples of this. Another student who went through one of my pathway programs before I even started working at the job. She did our summer camp, our STEM summer camp, and she is now a student at her undergrad institution who is going into medicine. She said, I am going to serve as a mentor for those students in the summer camp program, the same one that led me down this path to want to be a
Mhm.
neurosurgeon. So she's now developing curriculum for those students. She has done this stuff. She has now also, now this is someone who was an introvert, doesn't really talk to a lot of people. Honestly, I thought she was going to do engineering, but she really cares about people. She
Yes.
is now developing content for kids who are neurodivergent, who need different things to be able to make it to the next level,
Hmm.
who understand things in a different way, right?
Hmm.
And so she's doing these things, and she's like, I just want to keep giving back. And she said all that started because I did this little STEM program when I was a freshman in high school. When those moments keep happening in my life, I cannot ignore that. I
Yes.
cannot
Yes.
ignore the impact that that has. Last week, I think about when we were closing out our research projects. And like I told you, these students are doing research on things that are impacting their communities. I had
Hmm.
some parents to come up to me. Student never talked about their projects at home. They wanted it to be a surprise to them. This was a parent who was battling some issues that now this student has come up with some solutions as to ways that the community can approach this
Hmm.
stuff. So that kind of stuff shows me
Hmm.
this is the reason why I do what I do. In those
Yes.
moments where I'm just like, why am I doing this? Why am I dealing with the political issues of my institution or the political issues of this country or whatever the
Hmm.
administration going to do next? If I think about all
Hmm.
that stuff, what boils down to it is, you know what? This stuff is impactful. This stuff matters. This stuff, like it's my reason why. And if I
Hmm.
keep going back to that, that's literally the thing that I thirst and hunger for in everything that I do. What is my
Yeah.
reason why? My reason why is these students. My reason why is this next generation. My reason why is the people who don't have access. My reason why is
Hmm.
because I was that kid. I was that
Hmm.
kid who was lost. I was that kid. I'm a first generation student. Like, yeah, my parents both worked in healthcare, but neither one of them has a college degree.
Hmm.
You know, I think about the whole pulling themselves by the bootstraps. My parents were working multiple part-time jobs on top of their full-time jobs to get me to where I am right now.
That's
And
right.
now I am delivering services for students who are in the exact same situation. Who am I
Yeah.
to not do the thing that is going to take them to the next level? Who am
Yeah.
I to not?
Who am I to not? Yes, I love that. I love that. You have many quotable quotes in here. Listen, yes. And you went, listen, we know where Dr. Christie's heart is because you were like, okay, then let me tell you about this student and that student. And that is, I was like, okay, wait a minute. Because we want you to also share about this community partnership stuff. You just
Yeah.
touched on it a little, just even mentioning the TRIO program. I don't remember what the acronym is, stands for, but I know it's an opportunity program. It
Mhm.
is, by its very design, a community partnership,
Yes.
between pre-K to 12, higher ed, and probably many other organizations. So
Hmm.
what I want to know, these many organizations say they want community partnerships, but
Hmm.
those relationships can feel extractive.
Mm.
What does a mutually beneficial, dignity centered partnership look like?
Mhm. It kind of goes back to same goals. I feel
Mhm.
like I just had this conversation with my students. And I'll use this as an example. I'm just gonna say ABC company, ABC
Mhm.
organization.
Mhm.
So ABC organization has their strategic plan. They
Mhm.
have their kind of just goals, their department goals, their KPIs, whatever that is, that they have to meet,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Then you have, I'm just going to say my name, Dinkins Company.
Mm-hmm.
And I have my own goals and I have my own strategic plan and my own KPIs and the outcomes I want to reach. Well, I'll just say for the way that I do things, these two groups have to come together and align on what that larger goal is,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you talk about that larger goal, even when you think about higher ed, if you got student affairs, if you got institutional advancement or development, if you got alumni engagement, if you got student engagement, if you get all these people and their department goals together, there is an institutional goal. There is a strategic plan that we have to follow, right? What does that plan say about what we need to do? You
Mm-hmm.
have to align with groups. When you look, and this is why I tell my students when they're looking at jobs, when we're talking about where am I going to go for my next job, you have to look at people's mission statements.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I do when I'm building community partnerships, I look at mission statements. If there are not things in that mission statement that align with my mission statement, we're not working together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times it's just that simple. If I don't see words like engage, advocate, educate, if I don't see those things, we're not
Yeah,
working together.
there
We're
you
not
go.
having an alignment meeting. We're not even having, thank you so much. Enjoying the work that you're doing. This is great. If you ever want to do kind of like these kind of one-off things in the future,
Mm-hmm.
we would love to participate with that. But we are not having a long-standing partnership if our missions do not align.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah,
I get it.
yeah.
So that's the first step is make sure your missions align.
The very first step, at the very
Yeah.
minimum, make sure that
Mhm.
that happens because again, that speaks back to the values of the place.
That's right. That's right. And I know I asked this question because there has been a long standing missionary approach to supporting organizations, that are on the ground, boots on the ground in the community, where there's a perspective that people need the help of the whatever, the higher
Uh-huh.
ed institution, the
Mhm.
right, the
Mhm.
philanthropists, etc. And we're going to somehow fix them so they can be more like us, right?
Ooh, you're gonna be touching on some. Ooh, you're gonna be stepping on some toes with this one. You're stepping on some toes with this one. I like this. Come on, keep going.
Listen, right? And to me, that is not dignity centered.
Right, right.
Not and people only knew they did the best that they could with what they knew. I get it. Some of us get that mentality from religious organizations. I
Mm-hmm.
get that.
Mm-hmm.
But we're
Mm-hmm.
here to say that's not what we're talking about today.
Right, right. And that's I don't know when I have an alignment meeting with a community partner or potential community partner. I don't know. I don't know if it's discernment, if it's being a Black woman. I don't know what it is, but something's going to tell me if they're really in it or if they
Mm,
have some underlying concerns that I should be bringing up. Like, and I'm the type of person I'm going to bring it up in the meeting. Okay,
okay.
so on your website it shows blah 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 blah, and you use this little picture of this little kid and da da da. So tell me what was behind that? What was
Yes.
the goal? What were you trying to achieve? I'm a very
Hmm.
curious person. So when I
Hmm.
have alignment meetings, I'm gonna ask the questions. I'm not gonna leave out of that meeting without a question. If I'm leaving that meeting, I know, yay or nay, we're gonna move forward in this partnership.
That's
And
true.
a big part of what you're saying
Hmm.
shows me if a person is real or not.
Right.
That goes back to, missionaries coming into different countries and saying, we're gonna fix these people, we're gonna fix the savages,
Right.
right? We're gonna do this, we're gonna make sure they have that, even when I think about sometimes I grapple with the idea of medical mission trips, right? Because what are we really saying? Is your intent really to help this group? Or is your intent to say, well, this is the group that we did, this is the great work that we did. What's
Hmm.
the intent behind it? So if I
Hmm.
have a meeting with you, an alignment meeting with you, and your intent doesn't speak to my heart, your
Hmm.
intent doesn't speak to my mind, because we got to use the heart and the mind with this, because people will try
Hmm.
to trick you and say, pull you in, tug on
Hmm.
those heartstrings. But I also am a smart person. I'm also a very
Yes.
competent person. So
Oh,
I'm going to
yeah.
use my mind to say, you know what, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make a lick of sense. How are y'all
Right.
doing this? Who's involved? Who are the people that you were involved with while you were doing this? What was their intent? So you have to be inquisitive. You have to be curious. You have to ask those questions in order to align yourself with people who claim to have a shared mission, who claim to have shared values. You have to do a
Yeah.
little bit of your homework. I spend hours literally researching on people's websites. I will go to their site sometimes without them knowing, and just scope around and ask questions to the people who are there.
Right.
How do you feel you've been impacted? Do you feel like, somebody's listening to? Do you feel like your voice is heard? Do you feel like, and that's the first thing, honestly. After we're having these, I know I'm all over the place, but as we're talking about this stuff and the way that I'm able to discern it, how do you treat the people that you're serving? Are their voices even included in the decisions that you're making?
Right.
Do they have a seat at the table? Do they even know what you're here to do? So
Yeah.
at the very beginning, if they don't even know, if they don't feel like their voices are being heard, I'm not going to get into business with you. I'm not going to start a partnership with you, because for my mission statement, that's literally student voices, employee voices. That's all over the place. So if that's not included in that, so whenever I come up with a new initiative, whenever I'm coming up with a new program, that's the first thing I'm doing. Which students can I put in this meeting with me? Where can I get faculty to give their input in this situation? They can tell me what's right. They can tell me what's wrong. They can tell me what doesn't work. And having all those perspectives in one room just helps to make everything even better.
Yes, you just answered my next question, because I was going to ask, what are some practical things leaders can do to ensure community voices are not just heard, but they shape decisions and
Yes.
outcomes? And what I want to emphasize here is that you're talking about how you interrogate potential or investigate potential community partners. You sit in the seat of the big bad medical school.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And right. And so you're coming with a perspective that I want the community partners on the ground in our nonprofit organizations, for profit, whoever, schools or whatever, to come with those same kinds of questions you're asking of, maybe a more resourced institution.
Right.
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 But then it's like, as a member of the more resourced institution, how do you ensure community voices are shaping decisions and outcomes? So even beyond like you're saying you do it in your work for your department, your work. Do you have any recommendations beyond like departmental, but maybe institutional, whether they are institutions like yours or others?
Yeah. So I'm thinking through this. So go with me,
That's
because I
okay.
speak in webs. My mind
Oh,
operates in
we've been
webs.
following you. It's been fun.
So as I'm seeing how institutions, and when I'm thinking institutions, I'm even thinking organizations, right? So not even just higher ed, but all types of institutions. I'm in this group called, how each area has like their leadership program. So I take a lot of what I learned from my leadership program, my 9-month leadership program that's wrapping up pretty soon. I take a lot of that and apply it, because a lot of this stuff, when I think about it, I am coming up from it from a medical school lens, from a higher ed lens, because that's been my experience. However, there are places, I think about, we just did a human services day, nonprofits who may not have access to the things that I have access to, may not have the same resources, may not have the faculty, may not have people who are having these intellectual conversations about whatever, right?
Mhm.
A lot of times when it comes to just feeling people out, you just have to come with generous curiosity, a level of generous curiosity and being open. Once people see that you ask the questions and you're open to receiving what they're saying, that's it. You've got their trust. They can then buy into whatever you're trying to do. So even if you are a nonprofit that has maybe 3 people in your organization and you want to know, okay, there's going to be a park that we want to, build in this community.
Mhm.
How do I find out first if this park is needed? How do I find out the things that are going to be needed in that park? Well, you have to survey the people who live in the area. You have to do surveys. You have to do focus group interviews. You have to sometimes that can be door to door because it can be through email. It can be, radio, flyers. It can be community forums. But you have to find a way, one, to educate the group. Hey, this is what we do. Not educating in a fact of this is what you need, but this is what I offer. Tell me, what do you need? What are your needs? And I think a lot of times when groups go into and they're trying to serve groups, they go in with this idea of, I'm trying to fix this problem. And that's the wrong mentality to have.
Mhm.
The mentality is, and this is how I do my alignment meetings. I go in and I say, hey, tell me what y'all need.
Mhm.
If you could pick three challenges or three obstacles that your group is facing, what is that?
Mhm.
So then I take that and I think about, okay, so the wheels are turning in my head. Okay, I have a service that does that. I don't have a service that does that, but I do have a contact for that. So instead of saying I'm going to fix a problem, it's what are your needs? It's for me, it's what do your students need? What do your employees need? For someone who's doing the park, back to the park situation, what do the kids need at the park? What do the parents need? What are the families looking like? What's the demographic of this area? Do we need to have more cultural events? Should there be music involved? What about the safety precautions? Is everything ADA compliant? These are all things that you bring to that community, and you take their needs and you take what they give you and their voice in that, and then you say, okay, well, these are the services I offer. These are the things that I could do. This is a way that we can come together to achieve this goal. So, for any group, for any size who's trying to make some type of impact, I would encourage you to offer that, to just come in and what do you need?
Yes, ask what you need.
Yeah,
Find out who's in the community.
right.
Oh, and with the framework that this community is not lacking, it actually has many community assets. What are they?
My goodness. I think about I was about to go on a study abroad trip to Ghana. And one of the things that I learned from the professor before that trip happened was I don't need y'all going to Ghana thinking y'all solving the problem. These people got what they need. So don't go in there acting like you got this and you know that, and you need to come in there and understand that you need to learn the lay of the land. You need to learn what resources they already offer. You need to understand the professionals who are already there. Learn it before you try to change it. Because if you're not learning it, then you're literally just throwing resources. It's like, we don't even need that.
Right,
How are you going to tell me we need a whole new school? We got 5 schools right here. How
right.
are you going to tell me I need a new park when there are 6 sitting in my backyard? Like, come on. How are you going to
Mhm.
tell me I need access to this medication when that's already happened 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago?
Mm.
So, doing your research and understanding where you're going and who you're talking to and what's already there, that's a big part of doing your homework and realizing, you know what? If I'm going to offer something, let me learn something. So, if we always go into every interaction with this idea of learning and not of
Mhm.
teaching, if we're always, I want to learn from this interaction with this person, what can I learn? What can I learn? That'll put an end to all of that. What can I learn from this person? And I feel like you can learn something from everybody. I have learned so much. I think about people will probably turn their noses at, turn their noses up at, or even look past on the street. And I've learned so much in interacting with those people about life decisions that I need to make, about certain things that will impact how I show up. I've
Mhm.
learned so much from anybody I've ever interacted with. And if we approach it as this is a learning opportunity for me, what can I learn in this moment? Then all that other stuff, it's not about me teaching. It's about me learning. It's about me growing. It's about me doing this in a genuine way. And it's about me generously being curious.
Yeah, I hear that. I hear the umbrella of mutual benefit,
Mhm.
right? It's a mutual teaching and learning, or
Yes.
educating and learning, right? Things we're still trying to teach K to 12 teacher, well, and higher ed faculty. We're still trying to teach people that people come with foundational knowledge that is valuable,
Yes.
and lived experience counts.
Yes, it does. Oh my
The,
gosh. I
the
just
fact
said the
that
other day, I will take somebody with lived experience over education any day. I will take it any day. I remember growing up, that was something that my aunt kind of pushed onto me. She was just like, these women over here that you think they can tell you something about your life. They can teach you
Yep.
something about your life. People are talking about how they're dressing, what they're looking like, the things that are coming out of their mouth, but they can teach you something. You can
Yes.
learn from that. You can take that with you. And
Mhm.
instead of someone studying this stuff who's never experienced it, I want to hear from the person who's lived it. I
Mhm.
want to hear from that person's experiences because they can give me some practical things, some things that I can really put in my back pocket and use tomorrow, use today.
Yes. Yes, indeed. I appreciate you saying that. And I want to give our listeners some practical steps regarding themselves as well. Like
Yeah.
say there's somebody who is working inside a system that isn't yet inclusive,
Hmm.
right? How can they begin to influence change without burning out or even feeling isolated?
Woo! Burnout and isolation because you're talking about a lot of things that I am yet still practicing. And these are things that either I've read or I've learned from people's experiences, older, wiser people. And then things I'm trying to put into practice myself. So the first thing is becoming self-aware.
Mhm.
95% of people believe they are self-aware when actually 10 to 15% are not.
Wait, say it again.
95% of people believe that they are self-aware
Sure.
when there are 10 to 15% who actually are,
Who actually are.
who
Yeah.
actually are.
10 to 50. Please, I hope I'm among them. Ooh, please. Okay, go ahead.
And so that's one of the things. So that's data that's been Harvard Business Review gives that data out. And so when you think about people and how they feel their self awareness, how
Mm-hmm.
they're being perceived, how they feel about themselves, and how they're showing up into other people, you're just like, okay, wait a second. So the idea of knowing that I may not be as self aware as I thought I was. That's one thing that people can work on. So in order to do that, you have to ask for feedback early and ask for feedback often. Always looking to grow, remember, always looking to learn, always looking to really think about ways that I can improve myself,
Mm-hmm.
right? As we're talking about doing that, if someone does something, if you're seeking a mentorship, if you're seeking sponsorship, if you're receiving feedback, if someone has done something and you're in a difficult conversation, if you're having a difficult conversation, the pause method, I teach it. Pause. Take a beat. Don't react yet. Wait. Wait before you do that. Wait before you say that thing. One thing that a student just talked about maybe 2 hours ago before I got on this call, she said, you know what? I think about the pause method that we've been talking about this whole time. And then instead of asking the questions that I want to ask that person, I ask myself. I have my own inner dialogue, right? So as I'm pausing, instead of asking them, well, why did you? Well, why did I?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You
Like
know,
that.
well, in this situation, this person did. Well, in that situation, I did.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So having that inner dialogue with yourself. And so in that, you're also setting clear expectations for yourself, setting clear
Yes.
expectations for other people around you, being very communicative. So as you're
Mm-hmm.
communicating with people and setting expectations, I tell people all the time, do not have me come to a meeting and we don't know what we're talking about. Set an even if it's not an agenda, right? I need to know my purpose for being there, the role that I play in this project, and my action
Mm-hmm.
items when I leave at the very minimum,
Okay.
right? So
Say it
you
again. Your role. Some
my
people need to hear this twice.
yes. So basically my purpose, why am I in this
Mm-hmm.
meeting? Why am I doing this project? Why am I participating in this initiative?
Mm-hmm.
My role in it. What am I taking ownership of? What am I responsible for? What am I just thinking about the racing model? What am I responsible for? What are some things that,
Mm-hmm.
I just want to support? So
Mm-hmm.
what is my role in this? What are my responsibilities? And then what action items am I leading with, right? What is your role? What are you taking ownership of? When are our due dates? When is our deadline? When are we following back up? What is communication going to look like after this? How are we going to
Mm-hmm.
hold each other accountable in these situations? These are
Mm-hmm.
all things when you're setting clear expectations. and deadlines and interacting with other people. These are all things that matter. Being consistent and constantly looking for ways to stretch your learning edge. Always looking
Mhm.
for opportunities to learn. Of never devaluing your experience because you think you can't learn from someone. You can learn from anyone.
Mhm.
I think about the custodial staff. I learn so much from them all the time. And now we're like this. We're friends. Like I give them hugs and they're like, you can do that.
That's right.
And so to me, I try to make friends with a little bit of everybody because I can
Mhm.
learn something from a little everybody. So stretching your learning edge, it really
Mhm.
helps you to develop that competence that people act like they have in the beginning. Because truth be told, we don't know squat.
That's right.
We don't know anything. And so, as competent as you believe you are to be, you can be
Mhm.
even more if you just open yourself to hearing from a different lens, hearing from different perspectives, and really stretch your learning edge. And that'll make whatever you're trying to do more effective. That'll make whatever you're trying to convey, whatever initiative you're trying to do, people will buy into that. People will see that they can trust you. If you become more
Mhm.
self-aware, people can now trust you. I'm being more transparent about the mistakes I make. I think about psychological safety. The workshop I
Mhm.
just did was on psychological safety. So if
Mhm.
I'm more transparent about the mistakes I'm making, somebody, if I can say, oh yeah, I did this mistake, and you know what? This is what you can do to not make that same mistake. Or this
That's
is the way that I approached this when I did make that mistake. Or you know what? You made that mistake. We can laugh about it. It's okay. It's all right. I make it so that people understand when I'm failing, at least I'm failing up.
Mhm.
Every single time I am failing up and I'm failing early and I'm failing often, and I'm making it known that I am not perfect. I don't
Mhm.
want the people who are looking at me to think that I do things all for perfection. I laid perfection down a long time ago. No one on this
Okay.
earth is perfect. I laid it down a long time ago. I no longer wear that cape. I no longer adopt those ideas. The
Yeah.
idea is, am I creating impact? Who am I creating it for? Why am I doing this work? And then how are we going to make sure that this is something that can consistently happen and be duplicated? So to
Mhm.
me, being socially aware is a part of being self-aware. Taking inventory of how you respond to the people around you, taking inventory of how your body responds, the physiological changes that are happening as certain things make you uncomfortable. That says
Mhm.
a lot about your nonverbal communication and what you're saying to people when you're not saying the thing. So these are all things that we can think about. I know I gave a long list, but these are
Mhm.
all things that we can think about when we're interacting with people, when we're trying to come up with projects or initiatives, or when we're talking about a different approach to how we're doing it.
Mhm. Yeah, and it also helps you, right? Like it helps you as an individual to sustain in the work.
Yes. Yes. So when we're talking
And
about things like the burnout piece,
uh-huh,
right?
uh-huh.
That burnout piece. So if you're constantly doing these little mental checks and you're really thinking
Mhm.
about, okay, in this moment, what is my body doing? If
Mhm.
I know that I'm getting shortness of breath because I'm angry about a situation, all right, I need to pause.
Oh,
Right? If I know that I'm spending all these hours working on something, I need to make a change in the way that I'm doing things. I need to delegate. I need to empower other people to do certain things. Give them responsibility, have them take ownership, hold them accountable for those things. So
mhm.
those are, when I think about all the practical things that I mentioned, the strategies that I talked about, you can use all those things to help yourself and to help you feel like I'm getting somewhere. Not only am I getting somewhere, I feel better and I feel lighter and I feel even more competent and I feel like I can do even more. Rest, something I have to practice. Rest is a sign of like being resilient, and you're being resilient by getting rest. And while
Mhm.
you're doing that, it's also a sign of resistance. When I
Mm.
think about rest and resistance, that's something I struggle with often, but I'm working on it. That's a
Okay.
failure point of mine that I'm working on. I am trying to get more rest because if I want to continue doing the work, Rochelle, you said it earlier, I cannot pour from an empty cup.
No, you cannot. Or half
Cannot pour
full.
from an empty cup. And in order to do that, that means my cup has to be overflowing with things that I can give to the next group of people. I have to be able to do those things. But in order
Yeah.
to do that, I have to overflow with the things that feed me mentally, feed me spiritually, feed the things
Mhm.
that cater to my core values.
Yes, indeed. And I'm so appreciative that you brought that full circle, right? To talk about how we look outward and how we look inward, how we take
Yes.
care of the community of self,
Yeah.
the community around us, and then our extended community. Like you can think about that in family systems the same way,
Right.
right?
Right.
So for for our listeners, what is, what would you, I don't know if it's a challenge or what advice you might give to people, like about one tangible, maybe even bold action step they can take in the next 30 days to create inclusive pathways, be more inclusive as individuals, leaders, whatever the case may be.
I'm going to say one word that has several meanings:
Okay.
growth, grow, growth, and grow. And I say that because whatever you're doing, you cannot stay stagnant. You have to act, you have to do something. Something has to grow from that. Your ideas have to grow. The type of people you're impacting, the number of those people have to grow. We're talking about increasing things, enhancing things. So the strategy I would always say, having back in your mind, is just always have this growth mindset. Keep that mindset in every decision that you make. Anytime you're critically thinking through something, or if you're facing a problem, you're just like, how am I gonna get past this? Who are the people I'm working with? What do I need to do? Growth mindset. A lot of
Mm,
times our mindset shifting is what helps us to get to the next level. If we're always sitting in the negative, if we're always sitting in, I don't know who did this, I don't know what, this person blaming, naming, shaming, all those things, if we constantly sit in that, we are not operating from a growth mindset. So if you're
mm,
constantly thinking about ways to grow, that can be through podcasts, that can be
mhm,
through books, that can be through, if you're not a person who wants to sit there and read a book, they have audiobooks now. That can be through TED Talks. That can be through, honestly, going outside and taking a walk. I know down here in the South, it's very heavily pollinated. So wear a mask, but go into a park. I remember going to a park and just coloring in a book in the park. And I came up with so many ideas
mm,
because I wanted to grow, I wanted to stretch. So as long as you approach every issue, every concern, everything that you encounter with a growth mindset, and you are intentional about finding ways to grow, learning from every person you interact with, taking that and saying, how can I apply that to my life to make it better for me and the people around me and the people that I serve? Having that growth mindset is the beginning of changing your life. It's the beginning of changing your mindset. It's the beginning of changing the way that you approach what you're doing. And it's just the beginning of it all, right? We're talking about going back to the collectivism, right? Going back to being a part of the community, going back to being a great mentor. It's all about a growth mindset. You shift that mindset, you can change the world.
mm. Love that. Shift that mindset and you can change the world. Dr. Christy Dinkins, I want to thank you so much for being a guest today.
No, thank you for having
Thank
me.
you. Yes. How can people find you after this episode?
Absolutely. So I am addicted to LinkedIn. So you can definitely find me as Dr. Christy Dinkins on LinkedIn. If you are an Instagram person, you can find me at Dr. So DrCyavonne, Dr. C Yvonne on Instagram. So those are the best ways to find me: LinkedIn, on Instagram. And thank you so much, Rochelle, for having me. This was great. Conversations we always have are always great. You're an amazing person, the
Yes.
work that you do. And so I just encourage you to just keep going, keep doing the things, and also keep pouring into yourself as you pour into others.
Yes, thank you so much. And listen, I started a podcast in my 50s. There's no shame in my game.
Yes,
I don't even know what the 60s are going to bring. I'm like, yes.
love it.
But, I mean, literally, I'm one of those people when they say lifelong learner, like lifelong learner. Listen,
Yeah.
I'm going to be able to drop some science on AI in a minute.
Come on, boom.
Boom, just like that. You hear me?
Yes.
So I want to appreciate you so much. I feel like you gave us an action framework for inclusive leadership today. I heard, equity is measured by what you do, not just what you say.
Yeah.
That mentorship, being a mentor with intention is
Yeah.
critical. It opens doors, it shares access and advocacy, right? We must advocate for others in
Yes.
rooms that they're not yet in.
Absolutely.
Build reciprocal partnerships, reciprocal, right?
Mhm.
Don't just serve, collaborate
Yes.
and communicate with care. What was the word? Pause. You said it.
Pause.
Slow down, listen deeply, and respond in ways that affirm not only the other person's dignity, but your own. I
Yes.
often say when people like snap out, and it's not that I haven't, right? But in those moments, we're giving our power away.
Yes. Ooh.
And then finally, right? Like ask yourself about that impact. Well, this is not final. This is next to final. Ask when it comes to your impact, audit it, right?
Yeah.
Who is gaining access? Is someone gaining access because of the decisions I'm making?
Right.
Right? Who is not at this table? Who's being left out? We need to ask those questions.
Yes.
And in whatever you're doing, whether it's ideas or people, they must grow.
Yes.
The result of what you're doing has to be growth, come from a growth mindset, benefit people with your creative ideas, uh, living situation, you name it, right?
Right.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you again and again and again. And
Thank you.
yes, and I want to thank everyone who stopped by and listened till the end of this episode. Listen, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and share this episode. I really deeply appreciate all of you. And I promise I'll be here next time to welcome you back on Rooted to Thrive.